Harry Potter's story didn't begin with magic. It began on a quiet street where everything looked normal and boring. The Dursleys were proud of being ordinary. They avoided anything strange. But strange things were coming straight toward their front door. On a cold night, after celebrating the fall of the darkest wizard in history, 3 mysterious figures appeared on Privet Drive. A strict-looking woman who could turn into a cat, a tall wizard with kind eyes, and a huge man carrying a baby. That baby was Harry Potter. He was left on the doorstep with nothing but a lightning-shaped scar and a letter explaining everything the Dursleys never wanted to hear. Years passed, and Harry grew up in a cupboard under the stairs, treated more like a problem than a child. Dudley, his spoiled cousin, had 2 bedrooms full of toys. Harry had spiders for company. Strange things always happen around him. His hair grew back overnight. School bullies missed hitting him because he somehow jumped out of reach, and once he found himself on the school roof without knowing how he got there. The Dursleys hated these moments and blamed Harry, but deep down, he knew he was different. On Dudley's birthday, the family visited the zoo. Harry was used to being ignored, but something unusual happened while he watched a huge snake sleeping behind glass. The snake opened its eyes, looked at Harry, and seemed to understand him. Then the glass simply vanished. The snake slid out, whispering a soft thanks. By the time anyone understood what happened, Harry was locked back in his cupboard without dinner. Summer arrived, and with it came the strangest thing Harry had ever received, a letter addressed to him. Not just with his name, but his exact living place, the cupboard under the stairs. Uncle Vernon stole it before Harry could read it. More letters appeared the next day. Then more. Soon they were pouring through windows, under doors, even inside eggs delivered by the milkman. Every time Harry reached for one, Uncle Vernon snatched it away. The Dursleys panicked. They boarded up the whole house. They ran away from the street. They drove for hours with no plan. They slept in a tiny hotel. But still, letters found Harry. One addressed him at Room 17, Railview Hotel. Uncle Vernon nearly screamed. Finally, he dragged the whole family to a miserable hut on a rock in the sea during a storm. Dudley panicked about missing TV. Aunt Petunia complained about the cold. Harry sat awake, counting down the minutes to his 11th birthday, knowing nothing good would come of this night. But something did come. A massive boom shook the entire hut. The door burst open. A giant man with wild hair stepped inside as calmly as someone entering a warm kitchen. He picked up the door and placed it back neatly. Then he smiled at Harry like he had known him forever. "Harry Potter," he said warmly, "you're a wizard." Harry blinked, thinking he heard wrong. A wizard? Him? But the giant, Hagrid, proved it with a letter Harry finally got to open. He told Harry the truth the Dursleys had hidden his whole life. His parents hadn't died in a car crash. They had been killed by Voldemort. Harry survived when no one else had. That's why he was famous. That's why the letters chased him across the country. Everything Harry ever felt suddenly made sense. And this was only the beginning. The morning after Hagrid arrived felt unreal to Harry. The storm had gone, the sky was calm, and the giant who changed his life was frying sausages like it was the most normal thing in the world. Harry watched quietly, afraid this new life might disappear if he blinked too hard. But Hagrid wasn't a dream. He handed Harry the rest of the breakfast and proudly told him they had a full day of shopping ahead. Together, they took a boat, then a train, and finally entered a tiny, dusty pub in London called the Leaky Cauldron. Harry thought normal people couldn't even see it because everyone walking by ignored it completely. Inside, the place fell silent the moment Harry stepped in. People stared. Some gasped. A witch dropped her glass. A man in a velvet hat bowed, so low his hat nearly fell off. Harry felt confused and shy. He wasn't used to attention, but Hagrid only smiled. After a few greetings and handshakes, including one from Professor Quirrell, a pale man who taught defense against the dark arts, Hagrid led Harry to the back wall. He tapped a few bricks with his pink umbrella, and the stones twisted away to reveal the most amazing place Harry had ever seen. Diagon Alley sparkled with magic everywhere. Owls hooted from cages, brass cauldrons shined in the sun, kids rushed in and out of shops, and the air smelled like books, sweets, and something wonderfully strange. Harry stared at everything, unable to believe this world had existed all this time while he lived under stairs. After collecting a mysterious package from another vault for Dumbledore, they continued shopping. Harry got his school robes, potion supplies, and books, stacks of magical books with titles like A Beginner's Guide to Transfiguration and Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. At the pet shop, Hagrid bought Harry a beautiful snowy owl as a birthday present. Harry named her Hedwig and felt his chest warm with gratitude. But the biggest moment came at Ollivander's, the wand shop. The old man, Mr. Ollivander, knew exactly who Harry was the moment he entered. Wand after wand floated to Harry's hand, but none worked. Sparks fizzled out. Shelves rattled. Boxes fell. Then Ollivander handed Harry a holly wand with a phoenix feather core. The moment Harry touched it, golden sparks burst from the tip. Warmth rushed up his arm. The wand felt alive, as if it had been waiting for him. Ollivander whispered something Harry couldn't forget. The phoenix feather inside his wand came from the same bird that gave a feather to Voldemort's wand. The two wands were like brothers. Harry didn't know how to feel. The summer passed quickly. The Dursleys stayed far away from him, terrified after hearing Hagrid's warnings. On September 1st, they dump Harry at King's Cross Station with no help. His ticket said Platform 9 3/4, a place he had never seen. For a moment, Harry felt lost. Then he spotted a family of redheads talking about Hogwarts. Their mother kindly showed him how to run straight at the barrier between platforms 9 and 10. Harry did it, and instead of crashing, he burst into a magical platform filled with steam and excited students. The Hogwarts Express waited like a bright red promise of adventure. Harry found a seat and soon met Ron Weasley, one of the red-haired boys. Ron was shy, friendly, and curious about everything, especially about Harry's scar. The two boys shared sweets, laughed, and talked like they had known each other for years. Harry had never felt this comfortable with anyone before. Later on the train, a pale boy named Draco Malfoy entered the compartment. He spoke with a proud, cold voice that reminded Harry too much of Dudley. Malfoy insulted Ron, bragged about his family status, and offered Harry friendship, but the kind that came with cruelty. Harry refused, and Malfoy walked away angrily, promising they would soon find out who the right sort are. The train finally reached Hogwarts. Outside, Hagrid called for the first years, guiding them to small boats waiting on a dark lake. As the boats glided forward, Hogwarts rose into view, tall towers glowing gold against the night sky, reflections dancing on the water. Harry stared up at it, breathless. It felt like a dream, but was real. He was really here. Inside the castle, the first years waited nervously before the sorting ceremony. Rumors flew through the group, whispers about monsters, spells, and tests. But the truth was far stranger. They entered the great hall, filled with floating candles and a ceiling enchanted to look like the stars. The old sorting hat burst into song, describing the 4 Hogwarts houses. One by one, the students sat on the stool. When Harry's turn came, whispers filled the room. The hat slid over his eyes and spoke inside his head. It saw bravery, intelligence, and ambition in Harry. It even suggested Slytherin. Harry begged silently, "Not Slytherin." The hat paused, then shouted loudly for everyone to hear, "Gryffindor." Cheers exploded from the Gryffindor table. Ron clapped the hardest. Harry sat down feeling a warm, proud glow inside him. He had found his place. That night, Harry lay in his 4-poster bed, the curtains drawn, Hedwig sleeping in her cage nearby. He had a house, a friend, a wand, and a new world opening in front of him. For the first time in his life, Harry drifted to sleep feeling safe. Harry woke on his first morning at Hogwarts feeling like he had stepped into a new life overnight. The sunlight spilled across his bed, and for a moment, he simply lay there, amazed that this wasn't a dream. Ron snored softly nearby, and the other boys slowly woke up with sleepy yawns. Together, they hurried to get dressed, nervous, and excited for their first day. The castle felt alive as they walked through the hallways. Portraits whispered and muttered as they passed, ghosts floated through walls, and staircases moved unexpectedly, forcing the students to jump aside or run up a different route. Harry kept staring at everything: tapestries, floating candles, even the suits of armor that seemed to watch them. Breakfast in the great hall was a feast again. Plates filled with eggs, sausages, toast, and pumpkin juice appeared instantly. Harry had never eaten like this before. Ron showed him how to turn his wand into a napkin, though it didn't work, and he only poked himself in the eye. Not every class was scary. Professor McGonagall's Transfiguration class was strict but fascinating. Harry watched in awe as she turned her desk into a pig, and then back again. Charms class was funny when Professor Flitwick fell off his books from excitement after reading Harry's name. Even History of Magic would have been interesting if the ghost teacher hadn't spoken so slowly that half the class fell asleep. The most surprising class came from Hagrid's warning, flying lessons. Harry didn't know how he'd do. He had never touched a broom. Yet when Madame Hooch blew her whistle, Harry's broom jumped into his hand like it had been waiting for him. Neville's broom, however, shot straight up, threw him off, and snapped his wrist. He was carried away to the hospital wing. As soon as Madame Hooch left, Malfoy grabbed Neville's drop remembrall and taunted Harry. Harry's anger snapped like a whip. Without thinking, he kicked off the ground and shot into the air. The wind rushed past him, the broom obeying like it was part of him. Malfoy threw the Remembrall high, expecting Harry to fail, but Harry dived faster and sharper than he thought possible, and caught it inches from the ground. Everyone stared. Even Ron gaped like he had witnessed magic greater than spells. What Harry didn't know was that Professor McGonagall had seen everything. She marched straight toward him, and Harry thought he was about to be expelled. Instead, she introduced him to Oliver Wood, captain of the Gryffindor Quidditch team. Harry, without realizing it, had just become the youngest Seeker in a century. From that day, life at Hogwarts became even more exciting. Harry practiced with Wood, learned the rules of Quidditch, and grew stronger on his broom. He and Ron spent hours laughing, exploring the castle, and trying to stay away from Filch, the caretaker, who seemed to hate joy of any kind. Hermione, though bossy, knew every spell in every book and reminded them constantly to study. Everything changed on Halloween. The Great Hall glittered with floating pumpkins and bats. The food was incredible. Harry and Ron were laughing about something when Professor Quirrell burst into the hall screaming, "Troll!" In the dungeons. Panic exploded everywhere. Students ran, teachers shouted, and Dumbledore made the candles explode into bright sparks to get control. As students rushed back to their dormitories, Harry and Ron realized Hermione wasn't with them. She had been crying in the girls' bathroom earlier, and she didn't know about the troll. Without thinking, the boys ran in the opposite direction of everyone else. The castle halls twisted and echoed with distant roars. When it finally found the bathroom, the troll was already there, huge, ugly, with gray skin, dragging a giant club. Hermione screamed, frozen in fear. Harry and Ron acted without planning. Harry jumped onto the troll's back, grabbing its long ears while Ron tried to remember a spell. Harry nearly got knocked off, the club smashing into the sinks. Finally, Ron shouted, "Wingardium Leviosa!" The club lifted high into the air and dropped onto the troll's head, knocking it out cold. Teachers arrived moments later. Hermione saved them from punishment by lying, saying she went looking for the troll and Harry and Ron helped her. After that night, the three of them became friends in a way that felt unbreakable. Soon after Halloween, the excitement of Harry's first Quidditch match filled the air. Students talked about nothing else. Harry trained hard, learning how to spot the fast-moving golden snitch. But deep down, he was nervous. Quidditch wasn't just a game. It was part of Hogwarts life. It mattered. When the day came, the stadium roared with noise. Banners waved, students cheered, and the sky was clear. Harry flew high, searching for the snitch. Everything seemed perfect until something strange happened. His broom began jerking violently. Harry almost fell off. It twisted and shook like something alive. Ron and Hermione noticed Professor Snape staring at Harry without blinking. Hermione ran, knocked into Snape, and set his robes on fire just enough to distract him. Instantly, the broom stopped shaking. Harry regained control, shot downward, and caught the snitch in his mouth. The stadium exploded in cheers. Gryffindor won. Harry was officially a Hogwarts hero. But something darker had started. Something watching him. Something waiting. December warmed the castle with excitement, even though snow covered every rooftop at Hogwarts. For the first time in his life, Harry didn't dread the holidays. He wasn't going back to the Dursleys, and that alone made this winter feel magical. Evergreen wreaths hung from the walls, the great hall shimmered with sparkling lights, and real snowflakes drifted inside before disappearing in the warm air. Harry, Ron, and Hermione spent their free time exploring the castle and working on homework. Ron's family sent him a maroon sweater and homemade fudge as usual. Harry received something he never expected, his first real Christmas presents. Hagrid sent him a wooden flute. The Weasleys sent him a green sweater and fudge too. But one gift stood out, an invisibility cloak with a note that simply said, "Use it well." The cloak felt weightless, and the moment Harry threw it over himself, his body vanished. Even his hands disappeared. The cloak was real, powerful magic, and Harry knew exactly how he wanted to use it. That night, Harry sneaked through the dark halls, heart racing. Suits of armor creaked as he passed, portraits whispered, and Mrs. Norris the cat prowled nearby. Harry slipped into the off-limits library section, the restricted section, hoping to learn more about the mysterious stone he, Ron, and Hermione had been whispering about. But the moment he opened a book, a terrifying scream burst from the pages. Harry slammed it shut and ran, only barely escaping Filch's torchlight. While hiding, he found something else, a huge mirror standing alone in a dusty room. When Harry looked into it, he didn't see just himself. He saw his parents, his mother smiling, his father beside her, both looking proud and alive. Harry's heart squeezed with longing. He sat down and stared, unable to look away. For the first time, he saw his family, not in dreams, not in half-remembered flashes, but right in front of him. Harry returned to the mirror night after night, desperate to see them again. But on the third night, Dumbledore appeared quietly behind him. He explained softly that the mirror showed not the future or the truth, but the deepest desires of one's heart. For Harry, it was family. For others, it might be something very different. Dumbledore gently told Harry he must not look for the mirror again. And Harry knew he was right. The mirror was beautiful but dangerous. As winter melted away and the new term began, the trio turned their minds back to the mystery, Nicholas Flamel. They had learned his name from Dumbledore's chocolate frog card, but couldn't find him anywhere. Finally, Hermione discovered his identity in a huge library book. Nicholas Flamel was the only maker of the Philosopher's Stone, a magical object that created the elixir of life and unlimited gold. Suddenly everything made sense. The stone was the object Hagrid had picked up from Gringotts, the object someone tried to steal, and that meant the stone was now hidden at Hogwarts. The trio became convinced that someone, most likely Snape, was after it. Harry remembered Snape's injured leg during the troll attack and grew more certain. Snape wanted the stone. Snape had cursed Harry's broom. Snape was the enemy. One cold evening, Harry found himself sneaking back down to Hagrid's hut. Hagrid had a giant three-headed dog named Fluffy guarding a trapdoor in the school. If something needed a monster like that, it must be important. But Hagrid refused to talk. He distracted himself by showing Harry the huge dragon egg he had won in a game. Hagrid wanted to raise it, even though dragon breeding was illegal. When the egg finally hatched, a baby dragon burst out, wriggling and spitting sparks. Hagrid named him Norbert and treated him like a puppy. But the dragon grew quickly, becoming too dangerous to hide. Ron got bitten. Smoke filled the hut. They needed a plan. Harry and Hermione snuck out at night to deliver the dragon to Ron's brother, Charlie, who worked with dragons in Romania. The plan went well until they returned to the castle, and Filch caught them. Worse, they weren't alone. Neville, trying to warn them, had been caught too. The punishment was harsh. 50 points each taken from Gryffindor. Overnight, Harry, Hermione, and Neville went from heroes to the most disliked students in school. Even their classmates avoided them. It hurt more than Harry expected, but Hogwarts didn't stay gloomy for long. The Quidditch final arrived, and though Harry played brilliantly, something else distracted him. He noticed Snape and Quirrell talking in the forest. Quirrell looked terrified. Snape leaned over him like a shadow. Harry felt cold all over. Snape was pushing Quirrell to do something, and Harry knew it had to do with the stone. Something big was coming, and Harry could feel it. Spring arrived to Hogwarts with bright skies, but Harry felt something dark moving underneath the sunshine. The night Hagrid got Norbert the dragon taken away, Harry thought things would calm down. Instead, he felt more uneasy than ever. Snape had been pushing Quirrell about something, Hermione was worried about exams, and Ron was tired of losing house points. Everyone believed Gryffindor had no chance of winning the House Cup now. But Harry cared more about the stone. He was sure Snape would try something soon. One evening, Harry, Hermione, and Ron visited Hagrid again to check on him after the dragon trouble. Hagrid seemed flustered, hiding something behind his back. It wasn't Norbert, he was long gone, but something else. A card game prize he proudly explained as, "Just a little thing I won." Harry's stomach dropped. It was a tiny pouch containing a flute. But more importantly, Hagrid accidentally mentioned the name of someone Harry barely knew, Nicholas Flamel, and revealed that the stone Fluffy guarded was indeed the Philosopher's Stone. Hearing Hagrid say it made the danger feel real. They had to protect the stone. But before they could ask more, Hagrid carelessly let slip a terrible truth. He had told a strange cloaked stranger how to get past Fluffy. Hagrid didn't know who the man was, only that he loved dragons and bought Hagrid drinks all night. The trio stared at him in horror. That stranger had manipulated Hagrid. That stranger knew how to get past the three-headed dog. Harry realized the stone was in danger now, truly in danger. That night he couldn't sleep. A burning pain shot through his scar as he imagined Voldemort, weak, broken, desperate, trying to return. If Voldemort stole the stone and gained eternal life, everything Dumbledore and Harry's parents died for would be lost. The next morning brought chaos. A message spread that Professor Dumbledore had been urgently called away from Hogwarts. Harry knew instantly it was a trap. Snape must have sent the fake message. With Dumbledore gone, nothing stood between the stone and whoever wanted to steal it. Harry, Ron, and Hermione rushed to McGonagall, but she didn't believe their theory. Snape was a teacher. He was trusted. She forbade them from going near the third floor. But the trio refused to sit and wait while danger lurked inside the castle. That night, with Gryffindor Tower asleep, they slipped through the halls under Harry's invisibility cloak. They reached the third floor and Neville tried to stop them, begging them not to lose any more points. Hermione whispered an apology and cast a freezing spell on him, leaving him stiff as a statue. They reached the forbidden door. Harry's heart pounded. Behind it, Fluffy growled deeply. Harry pulled out the wooden flute Hagrid gave him. The moment he began playing the simple tune, Fluffy's eyes softened. All three heads sank slowly to the ground, dozing off. The trio stepped over the sleeping giant and stared down through the open trapdoor. A black void waited beneath. With no time to think, Harry jumped first. He landed on something soft, like thick vines. But they tightened instantly around his arms and legs. The plant Devil's Snare began choking him. Hermione remembered that the plant hated light and heat. She lit a bright flame, and the vines released them. They hurried forward into a room of flying keys. Hundreds of shimmering wings flapped overhead. They had to find the right key to unlock the next door. Harry mounted a broom and flew through the storm of keys, spotting one bent key with a damaged wing, the one that had already been used. He grabbed it and unlocked the door. The next chamber was a giant chessboard. Ron's eyes widened with excitement. This wasn't ordinary chess. It was wizard's chess, violent, life-sized, and deadly. To cross, they had to play as the missing pieces. Ron took the knight's place, Harry the bishop, Hermione the castle. Every move shook the floor. The game grew more intense, pieces smashing each other to dust. At the end, Ron saw the only way to win. He sacrificed himself, allowing a black queen to strike him down. Harry and Hermione shouted his name, but Ron was alive, only injured. They continued. Another room held a troll, already knocked out. Someone had come through before them. Then came a puzzle of potions and flames. Hermione solved it with logic and stayed behind to help Ron. Harry alone stepped through the final flames, his heart racing. He expected to face Snape. Instead, he found Professor Quirrell. Harry froze. Quirrell smiled coldly, dropping his soft, nervous act. It had all been a lie. He explained everything slowly, almost proudly. Snape had been protecting Harry. Snape had been trying to stop him. Quirrell admitted he let the troll into the castle on Halloween, and Snape had fought to stop him. Harry's world flipped upside down. Quirrell forced Harry to look in the mirror of Erist. Harry saw himself holding the stone. The mirror's magic placed the real stone inside Harry's pocket. When Quirrell tried taking it, Harry refused. A voice, cold and high, whispered from the back of Quirrell's head. Voldemort. His face appeared on the back of Quirrell's skull, like a nightmare. Voldemort ordered Quirrell to kill Harry. But when Quirrell touched him, Harry's scar seared. Quirrell screamed in pain. Harry didn't understand why, but his skin burned Quirrell like fire. Using this strange protection he didn't even know he had, Harry fought until everything went white, and he collapsed. When Harry woke up, he was in the hospital wing. Dumbledore sat beside him, gentle and calm. He explained that Harry's mother had died to protect him, giving him a kind of magic stronger than Voldemort's hatred. Love. That was why Quirrell couldn't touch him. The stone was destroyed. Voldemort had fled again. The danger was not gone forever, but Harry was safe. The final feast arrived. Slytherin seemed to have won the House Cup, but Dumbledore awarded last-minute points to Ron, Hermione, Harry, and even Neville for their bravery. The hall erupted with cheers. Gryffindor banners fell from the ceiling. Harry felt warmth in his chest that had nothing to do with magic. When summer came, Harry returned to Privet Drive, but he wasn't the same helpless boy who once lived in a cupboard. He carried with him a new family, a new future, and a place where he truly belonged. And his second year would be waiting. Where he truly belonged. And his second year would be waiting.